Hello, everyone, and welcome you here also on my behalf. And sad to see that after the lunch, it has been a heavy lunch, seems so. Quite a few of you left in here, but I'll try to make it interesting for you, at least those who are in here today. So, my name is Ahti Allikas, and despite of my Finnish name, I'm sorry I'm not speaking Finnish to you, I'm speaking English. Actually, I can understand if someone talks to me Finnish, but I don't speak Finnish. I'm coming from Estonia, and work for OpusCapita, like I was introduced already, and solution owner in there. OpusCapita has a booth as well downstairs, so if anybody's interested more. But I'm not going to talk about OpusCapita. I'll talk about the e-invoicing in the neighboring countries and changes and the regulations. And consists of like two parts, my presentation. First part is about more like a general items, and then in going to some concrete samples of the countries. But before going to the presentation, then I'm sort of telling you a small joke. One day in the company corridors, the compliance officer comes and CEO meets him, and the compliance officer has a letter in the shoulder. Oh my dear, why did you come with leather? Well, like leather to the office. You know, I've heard that this new regulation's supposed to be quite a climb, and that's why I took it with me. So yeah. What about myself, quickly? Company OpusCapita, as told already, being in the invoicing business since the beginning of the century. And today, as a voluntary basis as well, I'm part of the boards of the two global associations, GINA, which is Global Exchange Network Alliance, and also payable, which is the sort of global interoperability network, sitting on the board of those, and also leading the service provider community of the payable. And next to those, I've been part of the many other tasks and work groups. E-invoicing, like many of us remember it back in the beginning of the century, it was mostly about automation. The driver was companies were the driver, the efficiency was the driving person, and enablers were the open networks and standards, how we easily communicate with the trading partners and exchange the items. And of course, increased competitiveness, more revenue, better profits, that was the outcome. That was really sexy back then, and still now. Since 2005, Brazil, as the worst country in the world, introduced the other side of the coin. Due to the sort of bad collection of the VAT, they introduced the so-called the compliance part of the invoicing. When the government took bigger role in the e-invoice exchange, they wanted to understand they wanted to look at the first e-invoice before it was sort of sent to the buyer. They wanted to clear it. They wanted to collect the VAT information online from every invoice. And sort of totally different driver, not so sexy anymore. Rather, for the companies, it means more cost because you need to be compliant, and it doesn't bring you any additional revenue. So I would say that whites have been flying, but ever since, every country who talks about e-invoicing has also the compliance stuff in their agenda. So it's just something you need to do. You need to be compliant, like with any other regulation. So what is the landscape? How the landscape of invoicing is sort of happening? Basically, the market is growing. By the end of this year, according to Bilentis, which is a consultancy company in this world, more or less the only consultancy company, they're forecasting that there will be close to 600 billion invoices in total, and close to 16% of that will be as an e-invoices. And still, that number is quite low if you compare it to the fact that there are many countries in the world already where the e-invoicing is close to 100%. Not just Finland or Norway, where the automation driver has bring it close to the 100%, but it's more like Latin American countries where the compliance driver has brought it to the 100%. So market is changing. Yes, it's turning to the compliance focus. More and more, it's important that how can I comply in a particular country? Standardization is coming also more to the ground. And companies are following, and the countries are also following certain standards. And Europe is trying to do the initiatives about the VIDA. I will talk about that as well, like in the next slide. So how to make it more unified. At the same time, I have seen, being now in this business for a long time and seeing all the different samples, there are no country in the world who would have done the compliancy exactly in the same way. There are always these small tweaks and treats that, we in Italy, we know how we should do it the best, or which format to use. And of course, there are like so many formats in the world, but let's sort of do our own, because we know what's best for us. So yeah, it is quite a complicated landscape. But as I said, in Europe, coming closer from the world to the Europe, so that we can finally come to the neighboring countries as well, at least in Europe, we are doing the efforts to get something unified. And we could so-call the cornerstones of those activities of the VAT compliance in Europe, three cornerstones. One would be the European standard, and that was already mandated in 2019, and in every EU country, all the public authorities were supposed to be capable to receive e-invoices if they are sent according to the EN. Today, there are like 2 official formats inside the European standards, the UBL and cross-industry invoice, but there are many countries as well, like Finland, for example, where Finvoice and TEAPS have their national versions, but they are compliant to the EN, meaning they are one-to-one mappable to the EN. The second cornerstone is VIDA, which at the moment is still in a proposal level, and that pretty much thanks to the country where I'm coming from. Estonia was the only country, maybe you've heard the story, but Estonia was the only country who voted against the VIDA in May in the Commission. And the reasoning wasn't the digital reporting, but the reasoning was the platform economy. We had our own thoughts in there. But I hope that the VIDA will be accepted. And VIDA is consisting of 3 main rules. One is about single VAT return, and another one is a platform. They are not so interesting for the e-invoicing, but the digital reporting requirement, that's interested for the e-invoicing, because that will mandate that all the intra-EU-wide transactions, or within the community transactions, those have to be done like in the same way, and basically so that the e-invoice is sent from the supplier to the buyer, and the e-invoice is reported to the tax authority, so that the national tax authorities can bring this information to the European level, and that can be compared so that we have less VAT frauds on the cross-border trade. And of course, many of the countries will do this kind of digital reporting requirement then locally as well. Sort of if you do it already for the EU, then you should do it locally as well, or at least that many of us think so. And the third cornerstone would be PEPPOL. As I said, PEPPOL is a standardized infrastructure for B2B and B2G message exchange. And now, together with the VIDA, they are also introducing PEPPOL is introducing the model where message can be exchanged between the service providers, and at the same time, message can be reported also to the tax authorities of the local country. I was just coming out from the PEPPOL Management Committee meeting in the morning, and also there was introduced a plan that how the PEPPOL will do the proof of concept for the VIDA during next year, so that it will be at least one thing what we are trying to unify in Europe. Of course, at the end of the day, it remains for every country to select it, how can I do it, because this is not mandated in VIDA, but PEPPOL tries to show that that's the case, that's the proof of concept, and better to do it something which is already proving. But the real, now I have a small challenge. Okay. Thanks. Real challenge of the compliance is actually still the complexity, as I said, introduced on the local level. And now we're coming to the other side of the presentation, where I walk through some of the country slides. The slides are busy. Don't bother to read. They will be distributed later on. but I have just some countries from the neighboring part where I want to highlight some of the things which are changing or which are actually not changing. So countries around the Finland, Germany as well then, which is maybe important trading partner for all of us in Europe. So not too drastic changes yet to become. Germany, you have heard some mandate about the next year, but this is basically a mandate to the buyers. That's what happened with the EN in 2019. For the public authorities now, every company in Germany has to be capable to receive an e-invoice. Yeah, being in Finland, that sounds a bit ridiculous that you have to mandate something like this, but yeah, every company, every business have to be able to receive an e-invoice as long as it's sent according to the EN. And then the next mandates, which are upcoming later on in 27 and 28, it's about already mandating the companies as well to issue the e-invoice basically and send all the sort of invoices between the companies as an e-invoices. Main formats, Zugwert and X-Rechnung. X-Rechnung is the European norm or EN standard deployment in Germany. Based on UBL, very much similar like. Mostly happening today via the exchange today mostly happens via the interoperability, but payable is also getting forced in there. The next country to show in here again briefly, Poland. Poland probably out of the closest neighbors, the most drastic changes. It was supposed to mandate already B2B invoicing during 2024, but now it's postponed until 2026. And according to current knowledge, I sort of emphasize according to current knowledge, it will be so that there will be a central platform called, as an acronym, XEF in Poland, which every single invoice what you are sending to your buyer needs to be exchanged through the XEF platform. Meaning public sector takes the role in the distribution model. There is a local Polish format, and then invoice issuer issues an invoice, send it to the XEF platform, and invoice receiver can download it from the XEF platform. Sounds weird for us, agree. In the world, there is two of similar models available, one in Romania, one in Italy. No more. Let's see, will Poland go on with that or not? But according to current information, they will. Estonia, where I'm coming from, we also have a change coming up next year, if you have heard something. We are following here the Finnish friends a bit, meaning we give a legislative law for the company to demand e-invoice. Up until today, it has been more like using the buying power, which companies are doing, but now there will be a legislative sort of force for the companies that, yes, you can demand, and then the supplier has to send an e-invoice. Today, no more mandates at the moment. You don't have to send an e-invoice, basically, but many of the companies do. Norway and Denmark, basically very quickly slipping over those, they haven't done really any changes in nearby future. Norway is using payable, Denmark is using nemhandel, local infrastructure in Denmark, payable in Norway is sort of the global one, and they have been working well since many years already, and small minor improvements at the moment, but no major changes. So as I said, good for us, good for being in such a region that no major change is affecting us. Last country, I would still look at this, Belgium. That's one of the most interesting countries, maybe not so neighboring, but very interesting in Europe from that perspective, that they are the first one who have declared that they will basically use payable for the compliance show as well, meaning that basically already today the e-invoice exchange happens through the payable network, but now the same service providers who are in the payable network will be able to report the invoice data to the tax authority as well. So basically since the beginning of 2026, every company has to issue an e-invoice. Invoice will be issued using the payable, using the service providers in the payable network, and at the same time they are delivering your invoice to your buyer representative. At the same time they are reporting the data to the tax authority. So basically gaining two effects in one, and that's very positive. And that's what Peppol wants to do with this proof of concept as well, and not actually sell it only in Europe, but also sell it outside the Europe. And there are some cases already in the pipeline from the countries of the world. Unfortunately, I'm not entitled to tell the name of the countries, but there are outside, both in the Middle East as well in Africa, that who could join the Peppol network and use the same way of doing the things and reporting the data to the tax authority. But briefly stopping in the roadmap slide, as I told, sort of good to be in the region where there are not like much changes happening now at the moment, but 2030, it's already postponed. It was 2028, but it's already postponed now to 2030. It's pretty sure that the VIDA will be there. And VIDA, as I said, VIDA will affect all of us, meaning all of the companies everywhere in the EU. And that is something, if you are only present, if you're only doing business in one of the countries, then it's good for you. You have to like follow this country legislation. But if you are doing it in many countries, and those local models will remain different, for example, like if Poland remains to be the same as they are planning today, and Italy remains to be the same, but Belgium will use Peppol, and maybe Finland for the local, if they will do local at all, will use something different, then this is all like a question marks, unfortunately, yet in the air, and that might come quite a lot of information somewhere in 27, 26, 28, throughout those years, which force you to be compliant if you are active in many countries in Europe, force you to be compliant everywhere, and that's quite challenging. But now I come to the poll. Now I come to the question what I want you to answer. I will cover this as well at the end. But can you select, please, 3 biggest challenges what might be for you, for your company to follow the e-invoice compliance? Is it lack of information? Is it different complex regulations, country-specific requirements, change management within the organization, or your daily relations to your trading partners, or it's a service provider question that which of the service providers you should select, or basically size of the investments, which might be also very remarkable. So meanwhile you're answering, giving you still 10-15 seconds on that. We will cover it as well with Nina later on. Can I now change the slide? Okay. Okay, and before the end, I briefly want that you would sort of bring with you from this presentation is that what do you need to do in order to be successful in implementing the compliant e-invoicing? You need to understand the local regulations. Definitely you should select a partner for yourself, but still, to be on the top of the local regulations on your own as well. Organize for yourself a process how to follow the compliant regulations or compliant requirements. Then adopt the standards. Some of you might say that it's going to affect the automation, but if both of you adopt, meaning trading partners, then you're going to be cool. And then also investing in technology or partner who is scalable, integrate with existing back office systems, and definitely be ready for the cross-border transactions, even if you are not today cross-border. Engage with your trading partners, and finally, train your team. Thank you. I was a bit over time, but that's all from me. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you so much, Ahti. And I really have to say that it looks like we play in the same team with Ahti, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's time to check the results to the poll that you posed to the audience. So what do you think about the result?
Well, as I said, we have repeatedly said those diversity of the legislation in the different countries is something which is affecting us. And unfortunately, that's for the same for our audience. Mm-hmm. So basically, yeah. Selecting yourself a partner who would make it transparent for you, but at the same time be on the top of those. That's a sort of near-time challenge, but definitely sort of you just need to do. It's not sexy, as I said in the beginning, but it's just you need to be compliant. Complex. They are complex in one of the countries or another, but if they are unified, they are simpler than one-time complex, but that's not too hard. Relation to the trading partners and their readiness, but in somehow, if there is a mandate and everybody is forced to follow it, then basically that's good for us. Actually, law will do that for us. They will tell what you have to do, and your trading partners have to follow the law. So I'm sort of happy to see the size of the investment is so low, and the change management in the organization, and lack of the information. That's actually good to see, because that, like 4-5 years ago, that was still like quite in the top, but now it's been repeated so much over the years that it seems that companies know about it.
If I let you choose one option, what would be your choice?
I think I would agree with the audience. It's a country diversity now. It's in my mind, the worst sample of the different tax authorities in the public sector can show that, I think that's the best for us. Okay, Italy has done this way, and I don't know, Belgium has done this way, but we in Poland, we do it in a third way, or whatever. Latin America has 20 years of experience doing these things, but we still in Europe do it differently.
Ahti, it's time to say thank you. Thank you for this presentation.
Thank you.